Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today it's all about Grace Slick, who in many ways was the first truly remarkable female vocalist in rock. She blazed a trail for people like Janis Joplin, who came only slightly after her, but after nevertheless, people like the band Fanny, and perhaps most of all, the Wilson sisters of Heart. I don't know if there would be a Heart, at least maybe not as accepted as they were, if not for someone like Grace Slick. And when you hear her on those Jeffersons, I almost said, well, we'll get to the Starship in a minute, but those early Jefferson Airplane singles, things like Somebody to Love, what you get the voice in full flight, White Rabbit, another great one, Volunteers, so many. And again, if there was ever a band that was so iconic of the 60s, and in particular, sort of West Coast San Francisco 60s, that was Jefferson Airplane. And her voice was, in many ways, that most compelling element of it. Now, of course, Jefferson Airplane decided that it needed to upgrade itself to a starship. And in the 70s, it did just that, with some personnel changes and some consistency. And it was here that Grace Slick really demonstrated that while very opinionated, and I love her opinions because they're fun, and people should be allowed to say, you don't need to agree with everyone, but her opinions are fun. And if you watch her on any of the talk shows, particularly the stuff from Letterman in the 80s, she is hilarious. Now, she's also someone who doesn't have an ego and who thinks this whole rock and roll thing is a bit of a joke. She saw the spinal tappy elements of the business before there was, in fact, a spinal tap. And more credit to her for seeing that because she relegated herself to be one of many vocalists in the Jefferson Starship era. But you can really hear that wonderful backup singing coming through on the song Ride the Tiger from the first Starship album, Dragonfly from 74. And Starship were really, really a great band because they took that same ethos of the airplane and it was a bit more produced, a bit more focused on cohesive songwriting. Then you have obviously the following year, you have Red Octopus and the song Miracles. Grace had a big one with Play on Love in that one. And they continued to have hits throughout the 70s. And Grace was right there, not singing lead on everything or even necessarily the biggest hits, but her vibe and her personality was really an important element of what was going on in the band. Now, she did briefly leave the band, and this was the first sort of anything Jefferson related that didn't have Grace on it since the Jefferson Airplane made it big. But they did get some hits without her, and Freedom at Point Zero was in many ways a really important transitional album because it was the first album with Mickey Thomas, the male lead singer, who would sort of revive the band's fortunes. The big hit from this album was Jane. What a song, with Mickey Thomas really showing just what a great vocalist he is. But as all things in rock and roll come back and what goes around comes around, there was only one album without her, that Freedom at Point Zero album, because by 1981's Modern Times she was back. And again, she was probably doing even less lead vocal than she was before she left, but she was a great team player, and that is very rare among vocalists. But she was having a good time laughing at the absurdity of the rock and roll world, because I mean, you could say that if Jefferson Starship were an acid band, sorry, if Jefferson Airplane were an acid band, Jefferson Starship were, I don't know if I can say this word without getting censored, but it's white. I don't know if I can say that word. And it's something that involves the nose. And I'm not talking about white rimmed spectacles. There you go. So she was back in the band. Find Your Way Back was a great song from the album that welcomed her back. And then one of the albums that in many ways is the strongest, or one of the strongest, Jefferson Starship albums is Nuclear Furniture from 1984, prominent year to be sure. The song No Way Out. What a song that is. And her backup singing in many ways really makes that song incredible stuff. Now, of course, by that time, she would leave again after that, and the Jefferson Starship would simply become the Starship. I think Homer Simpson perhaps explained this evolution best, but Grace was always someone who said that you shouldn't really rock and roll till you die. You should get out of it and do other things. And she more or less made good on her word. She's done a lot of artwork. She's a very active artistic personality in the Bay Area and just such an interesting person. She opens so many doors for so many, but she doesn't really hang her hat on that. She just is who she is, a true individual. So, if you like her music, listen to it, and in the meantime, like and subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time.